Yo everybody, it's your boy Oni, and today I'm bringing you a Yandere Girl What If. To be what if DEKU had this person as from Demon Slayer as a Yandere girlfriend. If you guys want more of this series, please let me know in the comment section down below. It helps out a lot for the channel. And without further ado, let's begin with our video, and also subscribe because it's free. Easy to use, you don't have to do it again, just make sure you subscribe. YouTube's unsubscribing people from my channel, so please hit subscribe. So, let's just start off with our cinnamon rolls point of view. Let's just say at the age of, let's just say 10, to start this a little bit off. As Izuku was trailed through the streets, walking by shops, walking with Bakugo. Bakugo still bully Izuku in this timeline, but be a little bit more, let's just say, lenient with him. But the more Izuku stayed around him, he would see that Bakugo was no good for him. And then the other thing he stayed around him for was the comfort that he actually got from it, having a friend. Well, a fake friend, but it's there nonetheless. As Bakugo would call Izuku DEKU, and sort of use his quirk on him the moment the chance he got. But the more Bakugo did that, the more Izuku hated the hatred towards him. As one day Izuku finally snapped. So we're gonna go straight to that very point in time where Izuku finally snapped. As Izuku would travel through, well, the neighborhood until he reached a certain area in the park. "Ow," she said out loud. "Bakugo, stop bullying me," she said, as Izuku walked over and told Bakugo to stop it. "Bao-chan, what are you doing?" Izuku said. "What do you think I'm doing, you useless, quirkless nerd? I'm just going to show this little punk a lesson that she will never grow up to be a hero or a doctor, because no one's going to hire a pathetic loser that only knows how to even summon forms of poison from her skin, and she doesn't even know how to use it correctly. That's funny," Bakugo said in an arrogant, poshy tone. Well, her quirk can actually be used very versatile as well. If she wants to be a hero, she could technically make all the poison and everything surround her blades, swords, or even daggers, Izuku said. "So what? Even if she had that, the poison would leak off the sword. Not if she actually keeps the blades, the compound on it. If she's able to do that, then she's able to release poison the person that's in front of her with the blade," Izuku said confidently. But that confidence would be no more very shortly, as that would be short-lived. As Bakugo threw an explosion at Izuku's face, making him fall to the ground. As the moment Izuku rose his face from the ground, Bakugo kicked him and punched him in the face. Along with that, Izuku drew blood from the top of his eye, bleeding to the scar on Izuku's forehead, leaving a nice gash there. As Izuku lifted his head up once more, as Bakugo spat at him. "You come near me again and start talking this type of shit, DEKU, I'll kill you," Bakugo said. As Izuku got up, with just a single glaze of his left eye, holding it, feeling the pain that was streaking through his head, as the little girl came up to him and asked if he was alright, and Izuku just nodded and said he was okay, but she knew that he wasn't okay. So she managed to manifest a little poison from her skin that would be able to numb the pain that Izuku was feeling from his body, and covered it in that acid, making Izuku's pain-filled nightmare at the top of his eye feeling like it was just a small little scratch. But the moment that would live short-lived, as Inko would have arrived at the park to pick up her son. Seeing the state that Izuku was in, she'll be thinking that the little girl did it, but Izuku would respond saying it wasn't. it wasn't, over and over again, until Inko believed him. Well, she would have to believe him, is her son, as she would look over at the girl, asking, "Did you do this?" As she would shook her head no, and saying it was Bakugo. As, "That damn brat," Inko said. "I know Mitsuki should have put him on a tighter leash as a kid," she said. "Wait, what do you mean, miss?" she said. Basically, the rough understanding of it is he's a spoiled brat and he needs to be put in his place, sooner or later. As Inko grabbed her son and grabbed the little cloth that was holding her hair in a bun, as she would have took it out and surrounded her baby boy's gashed head in it. As she would have took Izuku to the ER, leading him there for at least 12 to 13 hours, until Izuku went in and finally had his gash sealed up, nice and tightly around, leaving Izuku in the hospital bed waiting for the doctors to dismiss him from the hospital. As 2 hours went by, as Izuku finally got the okay to leave, as he was given some pain medication to take for some ear-splitting headaches that he might get during the night. But other than that, he'll be okay, he said. As Izuku had arrived home, laying straight on his bed, and opened his drawers to open to a mirror, and looked through to see the scar that well, you guys might know the scar. Do you remember the scar that Yujiro had in the anime of Demon Slayer, the main character of fire, water breathing, or sun breathing? I know you guys are gonna slander me. It's basically that type of scar, but from season 1. But it'll get worse as it goes along, because it will spread. As Izuku would go to sleep and wake up the next morning, as he would go to school, as the kids around him would see the scar that would surround his forehead. As the teacher went up to him and asked if he was okay, as Izuku just nodded and went on his day. As the next day, well, the end of the day arose, as Inko was about to pick up her son until she saw Mitsuki at the corner of her eye, as she would walk over to her and slap her. As Mitsuki wondered why Inko just slapped her out of the blue, until she said 2 simple words, "Fix your," until Izuku interrupted her, asking if her mom was okay. But Mitsuki got the grip of what Inko was about to say, and would have retaliated with one word, or even multiple, that would have pissed Inko off, forever ruining those 2 relationship. "What did my son do? I bet he didn't do anything wrong. He's so sweet," she said. "Your son isn't sweet," she said. "How about this then? Izuku dear, come here," she said, as Izuku came over and showed the gash that he was left with on the top of his head, as Mitsuki would be shocked at the surprise that Izuku's forehead was gashed severely, just lucky enough that he wasn't blind. As Mitsuki would say, "Who the hell did you that, Izuku?" "It was your deadbeat son," Inko said. "Bakugo wouldn't do that, he's so sweet." "You think that terrorist is sweet?" Inko said. "Terrorist? He isn't a terrorist." "What do you mean, Inko?" As Inko interrupted her. "Don't you dare ever call me that, Inko, ever again. I want that little brat in therapy and a nice long apologetic letter stating why he did this to my son. And if I don't get this apology, well, you can forget about our friendship, Mitsuki, because I don't want you ever near my son again. You got it?" she said very angrily. You could hear the venom in her voice leaking out like some form of poison towards a snake, as Inko would have walked off with her son over her shoulders, carrying Izuku on her shoulders like any other kid. As 3 years went by, as Izuku is now 13, and Bakugo is also 13 years of age, just like their canon counterparts. as Izuku would be sat in class as he would be talking to Shinobu. As since Izuku's had this little wound on his head, people thought he had brain damage or some form of disability, but they would be wrong, as every single time a girl would have come to Izuku and asked for him if he was okay, or even tried to be generally nice, Shinobu would see this as a threat, as she would have walked over to Izuku and grabbed him by his arms, pressing you-know-what to his shoulder. She would have dragged Izuku away and looked back at a denouncing glare, saying even just a couple of words would even threaten or even scare her just from the glance. "You dare even come near my man, I'll slit your throat," she said, smiling evilly. And she would look back at Izuku with just a split second to spare before he looked at him. "Shinobu, are you okay?" he said innocently. "Yeah, I'm fine, Izu." "So, let's go to class," she said, smiling. As Izuku would walk into class, as Bakugo would be standing there, just there. As Bakugo would try to walk to Izuku to try and have a chat with him about their mother's relationship, but he'll be cut off by Shinobu interrupting the two. "You've done enough, Bakugo, now leave us alone," Shinobu said. "But it's nothing to do with you, bitch," as Bakugo was cut off by Shinobu, sticking one finger to Bakugo's skin, leaving a stained mark of puric acid on Bakugo's skin, making him not being able to sweat on his neck. If you ever come near Izuku and try to talk to him again, remember the restraining order, Bakugo? If you come near him like that again, you'll be violating it, and I get to use lethal force to try and keep you away from him. And that means also making sure you're not able to sweat anymore. And that also means you would be quirkless," she said, getting the attention of Izuku. "Shinobu, are you okay?" Izuku said. "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just threatening Bakugo to make sure he stays away." "Okay," Izuku said, as he went to sit down as class began, as hours went by until Izuku went home. As the moment Izuku was walking home, Izuku felt a strange presence surrounding the area, as Shinobu would have felt it as well, but they both would ignore it until something came of it. As Izuku would cut the corner and see a giant greeny mess of sludge surrounding the area. As Izuku would try to walk away slowly, but this would come to vain, as Izuku would be noticed by the sludge villain, as the sludge villain would jump at him, surrounding his sludge around his body, making Izuku choke to death. But before anything could happen, All Might jumped in the way, grabbing Izuku's arm and pushing an almighty smash to the sludge villain, making it dispersed and disappear. As Shinobu would come over to Izuku and ask if he was okay, she would hug him tightly, not knowing she was pressed between, well, you know what. I don't want to get demonetized for the exact reason that YouTube will cut this off, because you know how Demon Slayer's fandom is. Similar to my hero, but not as bad. As Izuku would be blushing madly at this very, loving motion. As All Might would be confused at this, but he would let it slide just for now, as All Might would gather the sludge villain. But this is where our timeline changes slightly. Instead of Izuku grabbing onto All Might's leg, the sludge villain would make its way free, and actually